Welcome to the deep dive. We are taking a sharp turn today, actually, moving past the usual politics and economics.
Yeah, shifting gears a bit.
Right, and diving deep into the narratives of JRPGs. Because honestly, the stories woven into these games, they've become these really um, profound psychological explorations, haven't they?
They absolutely have some of the most complex character studies out there, really.
So our focus today is on the evolution of the antagonist, that critical moment when the villain stopped being just simple, straightforward evil.
Yeah, the mustache twirling type.
Exactly, and started becoming deeply, tragically human. We're zeroing in on three figures who I think really defined this shift: Sephiroth, Magus, and Kefka.
The big three, for sure.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Our mission here isn't just to recap the plots of Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger.
Right.
We've looked at our sources to really pull out the psychological blueprints of these characters. We want to understand why they became these tragic icons and, maybe more importantly, psychological mirrors for you, the player.
Precisely. We're moving past just the stats and how tough the boss fight was.
Right.
These characters stick with us decades later because they made us grapple with really fundamental questions. Things about identity, grief, meaning.
Yeah.
So we're dissecting their stories to figure out what they actually taught us about, about being human, not just how many hit points they had.
Okay, let's unpack this. If you think back to the early days of video games, especially like the 8-bit era, the bad guy was pretty basic, wasn't he? Functionally just a placeholder.
Oh, absolutely. Pure, unambiguous malice. Their job description was basically kidnap princesses, steal crystals.
And then wait patiently at the end of the dungeon.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a certain satisfying clarity to that, good versus evil, black and white.
And it was also kind of limited.
What it had to be, really.
Well,
The technology just couldn't handle much nuance back then. Writers were stuck with tiny text boxes, simple graphics.
Sure.
But then came the mid-90s. You get CD-ROMs, better processors.
Yeah.
And suddenly the whole scope for storytelling just explodes.
Right, you can actually tell a complex story.
Exactly. And writers could start asking bigger questions like, what if the villain wasn't actually born evil? Or even more interesting, what if he genuinely believed he was doing the right thing?
That's a game changer.
There really was. What if his path to destruction started with something relatable, like loss or betrayal or some deep trauma?
And that technological leap, that's what gives us the space for this complexity. Which brings us back to our trio, Sephiroth, Magus, and Kefka.
Yeah, they really stand out as the ones who ushered in this age of gray morality.
They made sure that the final fight wasn't just about winning, it was often tinged with sadness,
Yeah.
Made you feel something more complex than just relief.
Absolutely. You weren't just fighting a monster. You were often confronting a tragedy.
Okay, let's start with maybe the most famous one, Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII.
Can't talk about tragic villains without him.
The sources really emphasize how he starts out, not just as a hero, but like the absolute ideal hero.
The poster boy.
Yeah. The greatest soldier, strong, respected, admired, this living legend seemingly born of science and destiny. He's everything the protagonist, Cloud, initially wants to be.
And that setup is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're meant to look up to him, maybe even idolize him a bit, often through Cloud's perspective,
Right.
which makes his fall, his collapse, so much more impactful, painful even, because the sources are clear.
Yeah.
His turn wasn't about wanting power or world domination.
No, it was about identity.
It was identity annihilation, finding out the truth about his origins.
That moment in the Shinra Manor library, finding those hold records, realizing he isn't who he thought he was.
That he's a genetic experiment,
Yeah.
created from the cells of this ancient alien being, Genova, and that his whole life, his heroic status, was built on lies.
It's devastating.
His sense of self doesn't just bend, it completely shatters. He doesn't turn evil out of, inherent malice. He turns to destruction out of this immense pain.
Trying to erase the world that lied to him.
Pretty much. He basically rejects his humanity because he finds out his humanity was, in a way, manufactured, an illusion.
And then comes Nibelheim, that flashback. The whole village burning, it's iconic for a reason.
Definitely. The sources frame that fire as this powerful metaphor, right? It's like burning your past when you can't bear to face it.
A total rejection of everything he was.
Exactly. An act of radical self-rejection. And that's why it connects so deeply, I think. Because the story makes sure you understand the why.
You're not just fighting some generic bad guy.
No. You're fighting someone who maybe like you felt at some point, had their foundational truth just ripped out from under them.
So the final confrontation isn't just a boss fight.
It's more like a confrontation with betrayal, as one source put it, with our own complicated feelings about forgiveness, especially for someone who can't forgive himself.
Yeah, he's the fallen idol who just refuses redemption because he can't accept his own brokenness.
It resonates because we've all had moments, maybe smaller scale, but moments where the truth shattered something we believed in.
That definitely sets a high bar for emotional antagonists. But okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the dark wizard from Chrono Trigger, Magus.
Ah, Magus. Yeah, he's fascinating too.
Because for, what, the first half of the game? He plays the part perfectly. The ultimate dark wizard summoning apocalypse, right? Commands this army of mystics and fiends.
Oh yeah, he's completely cloaked in classic villainy.
Yeah.
Cold, arrogant, powerful, clearly seems like the one pulling the strings to bring back Lavos, this world-destroying entity.
Everything about him screams final boss.
Exactly. He is set up as the ultimate antagonist.
But then you scratch that surface, and the real story. Wow, it's heartbreaking.
It really is. You find out he's not some ancient demon lord. He's actually a boy named Janus.
Lost in time.
Lost in time, yeah. And everything he's doing, all this dark power, this fury, it's driven by this desperate attempt to save his sister, Shkala.
Who he lost years ago, consumed by the very darkness he's now messing with.
Right. So his power, his rage, it wasn't born from some innate evil. It was born from grief, as the sources say.
He spent his whole life gathering power, embracing darkness.
Not to conquer the world, but purely out of love and memory, trying to get back to that one moment to save her. He literally became the monster he thought he needed to be.
That contrast is just incredibly powerful.
It really is. And it leads to what you mentioned, maybe one of the most revolutionary moments in JRPGs at the time.
The choice?
The choice. The game fundamentally shifts agency to the player here. When you finally confront Magus face to face, the sources really stress the significance of this moment. You get the option
to forgive instead of fight.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because that decision, it completely reframes the player's moral journey. Up to that point, victory means destruction, defeat the enemy.
Standard RPG stuff.
Right. But now, the game is explicitly telling you understanding someone is sometimes more powerful than defeating them.
And if you choose mercy.
Magus, the guy you thought was the ultimate villain, he joins your party.
Mind-blowing at the time.
Absolutely. You stop fighting a monster and you start, well, supporting this deeply traumatized, incredibly powerful guy who's just drowning in grief and rage.
It changes everything. The game's theme shifts from just revenge against Lavos to something closer to redemption, healing.
Exactly. It taught a whole generation of players that context matters, that empathy isn't just a feeling. It can be a strategic choice, even a powerful one.
Okay, so we have Sephiroth, driven by shattered identity and pain. We have Magus, driven by grief and love turned dark. But then there's Kefka.
Ah, Kefka Palazzo. Final Fantasy VI.
He offers something else entirely, doesn't he? Something almost colder, more chilling.
He really does. We've established that Sephiroth and Magus have these, humanizing, understandable motivations, even if they lead to terrible things. Kefka is unique because his motivation seems to be the absence of motivation.
Right. At first, he just seems like madness personified. He's this court jester who poisons an entire kingdom's water supply.
Laughing maniacally while doing it.
For the chaos.
It seems that way. But the sources dig a bit deeper. They distinguish his evil. It isn't born from pain like Sephiroth's or driven by a desperate goal like Magus's. Kefka's evil seems to come from pure emptiness.
Emptiness? How so?
Well, the backstory suggests he underwent this experimental Magitech infusion process. It gave him immense magical power, but it also apparently broke his sanity. Or maybe, more accurately, it just hollowed him out, left him without any capacity for empathy, connection, or meaning.
So he became the ultimate cynic.
Pretty much. The ultimate nihilist. If Sephiroth is pain and Magus is grief, Kefka is just. Apathy taken to its destructive extreme.
He decides to destroy a world that no longer makes any sense to him because fundamentally he believes nothing has any real value anyway.
Exactly. That infamous line of his, hate, pity, glee, or despair, they're all the same, that sums it up perfectly. It's the ultimate statement that existence itself is meaningless noise.
And the thing that makes Kefka terrifying, maybe more than any villain before him, he wins.
Yeah, that's the gut punch Final Fantasy VI. He actually succeeds mid-game.
He drains the power of the gods, the warring triad.
And literally breaks the world. The second half of the game takes place in the world of ruin. The sky turns red. The continents are shattered. The heroes are scattered, living in despair.
It's unbelievable. You're not fighting to save the world anymore.
No, you're fighting to find reasons to rebuild it after the ultimate defeat. It completely flips the script on the usual JRPG power fantasy.
How do you even fight that? How do you defeat pure nihilism with, like, a sword?
Well, that's the genius of it. The game suggests the antidote isn't necessarily more power, it's resilience, it's hope.
Found in the survivors.
Exactly, through characters like Celes, finding a reason to keep going after waking up alone on a deserted island. Or Terra, reconnecting with her ability to love and protect others. Kefka's madness, his nihilism, as the sources suggest, was meant to test our belief that life still matters.
So meaning isn't something inherent. It's something you choose to create.
Precisely. It's found in what the heroes choose to rebuild, choose to care about, even after the world itself seems to confirm the nihilist's bleakest view. It's an active choice to find value when everything screams that there is none.
Wow. Okay, that deepens things considerably. So if we bring these three back together, Sephiroth, Magus, Kefka, it really hits home that they weren't just external threats. They were, like the analysis said, these profound mirrors.
Absolutely. Reflecting our own deepest anxieties, right?
Yeah, like Sephiroth is the fear of betrayal, finding out your life is a lie, and maybe the fear of becoming the very thing you hate.
Definitely. And Magus, he captures that raw, desperate fear of losing someone you love, the lengths you might go to, even self-destructive ones, just to get them back or undo the loss.
Driven by trauma.
Totally trauma-driven.
Yeah.
And Kefka, he forces us right up against that cold existential dread. The fear that maybe, just maybe, nothing we do actually matters in the grand scheme of things. That ultimate loneliness of meaninglessness.
What's really striking, though, is that the games don't just present the problem. They offer a solution, and it's rarely just about hitting harder.
No, the knowledge gained, the real level up maybe, is in empathy, insight, understanding.
Yeah, the sources make a strong point that the most powerful boss fights, emotionally speaking, were won with insight, by understanding why the villain is the way they are, their wound.
And this whole blueprint, the tragic villain, the understandable antagonist, it didn't just stay in the 90s. It became like the gold standard for complex storytelling in games, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You see echoes everywhere. Arthas in Warcraft, his fall from noble paladin to the Lich King is pure Sephiroth-style identity collapse and corruption.
Good example. Or Joel in The Last of Us. His actions, especially at the end, entirely driven by trauma and a fierce, maybe selfish protective love. Very Magus-like in a way.
Even Kreia, from Knights of the Old Republic II. She's practically a walking, talking deconstruction of morality, forcing you to question everything, descended from this tradition.
Definitely. Developers learned that, well, complexity is more compelling than cruelty. It moved the whole medium past that simple black and white framing.
And it taught us, the players, to look at conflict differently, maybe. To ask, okay, what pain built this person?
What did they lose? What hope did they abandon? It adds layers.
The broader lesson, then, isn't just about how to win a fight.
No, it's more about understanding the paths that lead to falling. These characters show us exactly what happens when hope or truth or love gets shattered.
So what does this all mean? It means these stories weren't just simple good versus evil tales. They were much deeper. They were about despair versus hope, really.
That's a great way to put it.
Sephiroth fell because he couldn't accept his manufactured humanity. He stopped believing he was human in any meaningful way. Magus. Well, he survived, partly because he held on to that memory of love, and crucially, he was offered mercy.
Right, the choice mattered.
And Kefka. He was ultimately defeated not just by magic, but because the heroes chose to find and create meaning again, even in a world he had utterly ruined. They remembered life mattered.
And maybe that's the final thought to leave you with. When we really engage with these complex antagonists, maybe what we're truly defeating isn't just evil in the abstract. Maybe it's ignorance.
Ignorance.
Yeah, our own ignorance, maybe. The tragic villain forces us to expand our capacity for understanding. They make us uncomfortable because they remind us that under different circumstances, maybe we could have gone down a similar path.
That's provocative.
And hopefully we walk away from those stories understanding something new, not just about the villain, but maybe about ourselves too.
Because sometimes the villain isn't just an obstacle to overcome. Sometimes they're a hero who lost their way. And seeing their fall helps us find our own footing, our own purpose.